Welcome to the Event Connection, where we explore the stories, trends, and unforgettable moments that are shaping our industry. We'll uncover the human side of events and celebrate the power of engagement and connection, all while having a little fun. This podcast is produced by PC Nametag.
Welcome back to another episode of the Event Connection podcast. Whether it is your first time tuning in or you're returning for another episode, we are so excited to have you all. My name is Megan, and I'm here with
Brooke.
And we are so excited to talk about a very interesting and fun topic that's very near and dear to our event planning hearts, and that is event promotion on a budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know it's a big topic right now. And before we get any further, though, we just want to let you know you should watch us on YouTube because we're getting really professional. We have our own neon sign that has our little logo on it, and we're pretty excited about it. So check us out on YouTube or wherever you want to get your podcast. But it's just like a little special extra treat for you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty legit now.
Yeah, we're getting pretty legit. And that's all thanks to our producer. So like Megan was saying, this is a topic that's near and dear to our hearts, and I think probably near and dear to a lot of event planners out there because right now things are a little bit volatile with the economy, and I'm sure with a lot of event planning budgets, a lot of company budgets. As of right now, without getting into politics and the too deep into it, there's tariffs on a bunch of different, pretty much every country, and then all of a sudden they're being reeled back, and then some tariffs are increasing, and we know a lot of event planning, a lot of the materials used for event planning come from other countries, whether it's AV equipment or printed materials, things like that. So that can really impact a lot of event planning budgets, organization budgets, and things like that. And Megan and I have a little bit of experience with trying to make do with smaller budgets. So before we worked at PC Nametag, where we are right now, we worked... Well, how about you describe it? I like the way you were describing it before.
I'm going to paint the scene for you all. So this was a startup company, and there were beanbag chairs. There were Lego tables. It was a dog-friendly company, so there were just like dogs running around. We had a kegerator in the break room. It was a lot of fun, but as comes with a startup company, you don't always have the most budget for doing things, and we really had to get scrappy with our marketing budget. So we have some experience with trying to be, a little more creative with the money that we did have. And I think a lot of the things that we learned really applied to marketing, even in an event setting.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's a lot of pressure. We feel it in marketing too, to do more with less. Like, oh, you're going to have half the budget, but we expect twice the ROI or twice the attendees to sign up, things like that maybe aren't truly realistic, but you have to do what you can with what you have. And so we really want to provide some good takeaways, tips and tricks that we've learned along the way from our own experiences and things that will work specifically applied to event planning and event promoting. So that's kind of what we're hoping you get out of it today, is just to have some ideas, get a little bit creative and scrappy, and things will turn out.
One thing that I've been hearing a lot about from the planners that I've been speaking with is there's this pressure to do more with less. So in the past, we've had these specific budgets. We've been able to wow attendees with the budgets that we've had, but maybe we don't have that specific budget anymore. So it's how do we get scrappy and more creative with the budgets that we do have? So I wanted to pick your brain, Brooke, on why do you feel that event promotion on a budget is so important for planners right now?
Yeah, I think there's always pressure every year, I think, to have like a bigger and better event. People expect if they're going to your event year over year that something new is going to come of it or something different. And I think you can do a lot of that stuff without actually having more budget. So it's just about kind of narrowing down your audience. And I think that's one of the biggest things is figuring out where are you going to get the most bang for your buck, especially if you don't have much of a buck to give, so to speak. So I think one of the things we wanted to talk about was what are some of the missteps that planners might make when they're planning on a budget. And I think one of the biggest things is to not really doing enough research into your target audience ahead of time. One thing that we really like to do, we have a tool called SparkToro, and it's a super nice tool, and it's not very expensive. You can do like 10 searches for, I think, under $50 a month. But it's a tool that analyzes your social media. So if you can use SparkToro, go on there and like type in, you can pick like a topic that your audience might be talking about. So if you're doing an event for event planners, maybe you'll go in there and look at anyone talking about the CMP certification or someone who has CMP in their profile, and it'll analyze everyone across all social media platforms. And then it will give you information about them, like where they're located, what age range they're in. It'll tell you what social media platforms they're most frequently using. Because I think one of the things we think about a lot ourselves is like, maybe we don't need to be on every single social media platform. If we know our audience isn't really using Instagram, we don't need to be on Instagram. There is a lot of pressure with how many different platforms there are. Like, you need to have a presence on everything. But that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, curious about your thoughts on that.
I think SparkToro comes in really well with that because it kind of helps you narrow your focus. So instead of doing everything at once, maybe we just pick a few things, get it really good. And then once we get that really good, we can build on that. So one thing that you were talking about is, not trying to do everything at once, because I know event planners are already really contending with a lot of, burnout in the industry. We're still recovering from COVID, and the economy now is, as you mentioned, a little bit volatile. So returning back to not doing everything at once, I think it's really important to realize that your time is valuable, and it's not a bad thing to also pass off specific tasks that you might not be able to handle to someone else on your team, or maybe even outsourcing to get those things done. So adding to your point is to realize that it's not something that you have to do all by yourself. So that's one thing that I wanted to add. And I really want you to focus on realizing that your energy is valuable and putting your energy towards things that you can do really well.
For sure. Because we know, in addition to budgets being cut for events, there might be situations where, unfortunately, people get laid off, and now your team is much smaller too. And you have to not only do more with less money, but more with less time. And event planning is already stressful enough. And there's only so much time and energy that you can realistically expend on these types of things. Something else that's super nice about SparkToro, not that this is an ad for SparkToro, you can find this information in other ways too. This is just a really good way to do it. But it'll also tell you like what websites and podcasts your target audience are listening to as well, which is super helpful, because when you're looking at things that are that don't cost a lot of money, oftentimes you can reach out to a podcast and be like, hey, I would love to come on. I would love to talk about an event that I'm planning. I think your audience would be really interested in it. And most of the time, you're not going to have to pay to do that. You could even come on our podcast if you want. But a lot of those things, it's not going to be like you need a massive budget for that. Same thing with social media, obviously, just organic posts are free. So really narrowing down, making sure that you're finding those specific channels that your audience is super tuned into is just going to make a huge difference. So yeah, I would say try SparkToro, but do whatever you want. I think you could do a free trial too. I remember, not that I am advocating for this, but back in the day, I think I used like 10 different email addresses because we had no budget and I wanted to keep doing more search. We pay for it now. Okay, we're paying customers, but yeah, that that's always an option too. Just create a bunch of test accounts.
I would definitely recommend checking it out. I learned a lot of different things, and we've used it at PC Name Tag, and I think it's really interesting to see the different social platforms and the different podcasts people are listening to, because then you can kind of get a feel for what your attendees are most interested in, and you can cater your event strategy to interest them and intrigue them enough to sign up for your event, which is a great segue into our next section. So I thought we'd get right into it and talk about some affordable ways to promote your event. And we're going to talk about 4 different overarching topics today. So we're going to talk about how to promote your event on social media. We'll do event marketing or email marketing, content marketing, and partnerships. So stay tuned for those. But I think first, let's start off with social media. I love social media. I think there's so many different ways that you can use it. And I know we mentioned there's a lot of different platforms, and I know that can get a little bit overwhelming. But as we mentioned, maybe pick, a few platforms and get really good at it. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about, Facebook and Reddit and maybe even LinkedIn today. So let's go ahead and start with some things that we can do on social media to promote our events. And I think one thing I'd like to start with is creating reels for Instagram or creating TikToks, because I know TikTok has really blown up lately, and reels are doing really well on Instagram too. They tend to do a little bit better than static posts. So
yeah, definitely. And it can be kind of a challenge because obviously if you're doing a completely organic strategy and maybe it's your first year doing this event, you don't have a built-in audience or a very sizable one. We have this experience sometimes too, especially on TikTok, of like knowing how much effort to put into something, not really knowing what the return is going to be. And so you can always do things like trying to jump on to trends that pop up on TikTok. I know something we do is we have like our company TikTok account. And then if we see something that's kind of cute and fun when we're scrolling TikTok ourselves, we'll like message that video to ourselves on the PC name tag account. Megan does that very often. And it's super nice because it's just an easy way for us to kind of get some ideas for good content that we can start putting out just to see if we can hop onto something, especially if it's really easy to film. If it's just a couple members of your team that can just do something goofy, put it up there, see if it gets a little bit of traction. But I wouldn't worry too much about something going viral because I think we put a lot of emphasis on, we want to go viral. We need to get like 1 million views and 100,000 likes. But chances are if that happens to you, only like 1% of those are going to be people who are actually in your target audience. So don't worry so much about getting that huge audience. Just try to find something that's like relevant, but still fun, still relatable to who you're really trying to get to attend your event and sign up for all that. So some of the things that you could also do is, I think, like behind the scenes content. People are really interested in that. Like, here's how we set up this really cool display wall at our event, and to do like a time lapse video with a fun voiceover. And a little bit of background music that goes a long way.
I think you'd be surprised to see what people are interested in seeing. Like at PC Name Tag recently, we took a behind the scenes video of our badge ribbon machine running, and people loved it. So if you can get some content out of, setting up a booth or, hanging lanyards on the lanyard stand at event registration, people love that. And it's a great way to make the people who are excited about your event feel like they're part of your event's community.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's not your first event, you could always take fun content from last year too. Like if one of your speakers had a really good moment during their keynote, take a really good highlight from that and share that out again. And that'll get people excited too. And in addition, we talk about TikTok and Instagram a lot because I think those are the biggest platforms with the most potential for organic growth because of how popular video content is, obviously. But there are other platforms too that you can try out. Like something we've noticed is Facebook groups. So I don't know about you, but personally, when I log onto Facebook, which I don't do a whole lot anymore, but it's pretty much all ads or content from groups that I'm in. And I have like this weird thing where I'll just join a bunch of like very niche groups. And there's definitely something out there that's guaranteed to be relevant to your audience. Like there's groups out there. So one of the products that PC Name Tag sells is badge ribbons. And there are groups out there for just people who collect badge ribbons. And it's everyone's super engaged. It's a really active group. And that's really the only way now I feel like that people are actively using Facebook outside of like Marketplace. So browse around, see if there's Facebook groups that might be relevant to your audience where you can post about your event. And same thing goes for subreddits. Reddit is thriving as much as it ever has been. People are using Reddit as like a search engine where you'll Google something and add Reddit to the end of it because people know that's like the only way that you will get real answers from real people and not just like an AI overview. So Reddit is still doing really well. So you can always look for specific subreddits that you could post in as well. Even doing advertising, you can advertise based on subreddits too. So don't just think about video content and TikTok and Instagram. There's other channels as well.
As far as social media posting, I think another thing that is worth thinking about is having a social media calendar, but not getting so stuck in making sure you have such a rigid posting schedule that it doesn't feel genuine anymore. So we've kind of been playing around with that at PC Name Tag, and it's good to have a specific idea of what you might want to be posting during the week. But I also, going back to what you mentioned earlier in the episode, is that if you find a trend that you like, make sure that if you want to replicate it, it makes sense for your brand.
Yeah.
So, and if you miss a day or you want to change something up, that's okay too. I think it's good to have a little bit of patience with yourself when figuring out what you want to post to social. Because, you may post a TikTok and it gets 100 views, and that can be frustrating. But on the opposite side, it's TikTok specifically has very good organic reach. So we just posted a TikTok and it got 3,000 views, and it was just something fun that we did in 15 minutes at the office. So you just never know.
It's true. Yeah. And if something just kind of falls on its face, like, big deal, move on and try a different strategy. That's totally fine. It's not the end of the world if something just doesn't work out. But that's why you kind of want to measure how much time you're spending on things too. Another thing too, I just wanted to throw out there, this is something that it does involve a little bit of a budget, but just doing like a boosted Facebook post. So obviously, like, brands have entire Facebook ad strategies or meta ad strategies, but if you post something and it does more organic reach than one of your typical posts, try just boosting it. Even if it's just like $50 you put behind it, run an ad for like a week just to the people in your surrounding area. You can target people by like their job titles and their age range, where they're located, things like that. You might want to do something that's kind of in the location of where your event's going to be. That can be a really good way to just get people excited, especially if you create an easy way for them to convert too. Like, maybe it's not a post that's like, sign up for our event, it's only $800, but maybe you do something like, sign up to learn more about our event. It's coming up. There's limited spots. We want to make sure that you're on our list or something. Something that's really easy for them to sign up for, I think, is a great idea too.
Love that. Let us know what you guys do on social media to promote your events. We'd love to hear what you are all doing and share that inspiration with all of our other listeners and viewers. All right. I think it'd be good if we move on to email marketing, which is something that Brooke and I do every single week. We love email. So I will have to reel it in a little bit, since I know we could have an entire episode on just email. So I think one of the main things that is really good to start with is making sure you have a really healthy, productive email list. You want to tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah,
definitely. I think building an email list is so important, and it's really like the one way to get a group of people that you fully, every single one of them signed up for your list. So there's like an inherent level of interest there in whatever you're doing. And it's like an owned audience that you can take with you wherever you go. It's not like, Facebook is going to be down tomorrow and whatever you did on Facebook is, gone or like isn't working. It's something I think that's so important. And it's really not too hard to build a list. We have a lot of different methods that we use to build our own subscriber list. I'll let Megan talk a little bit about this, but we do a lot of like gated content pieces. If you want to talk about that strategy, because that's something that you do a great job with.
I've had many people ask me, how do I start building these lists? How do I reach people? And I think, as Brooke mentioned, a really easy way to get people interested and to convince them to share their name and their email address with you is to create what we call a gated piece. So essentially, this is a piece of content that you gate, quote, quote, behind a form. So in order to get it, you fill out for example, you can, coordinate this to whatever you'd like, but you can fill out your first name, your last name, and your business email, let's say. So an example of a gated piece that I've created in the past is like a really juicy ebook or a guide about your event, or you can even keep it kind of simple with a checklist or a template or a cheat sheet, something like that. But I would say starting off with like a really juicy, big guide of some sort that intrigues people enough to want to give their name and trust their information with you for that's a good place to start. What you can do is you can make this gated content piece related to your event. You could make it related to your industry. And that's a really great way to get people who would be interested in your event excited to sign up for your event. And then from there, once you have their information, you can start sending them emails and getting them warmed up to your event, teaching them about the event, getting them excited to attend, and hopefully they will purchase a ticket from there.
I think something else you could try too is if you are working with a specific influencer, you have a keynote speaker that you're working with, oftentimes those people will have gated content of their own. So you might be able to say like, oh, so-and-so is going to be at our event, download their guide to early bird pricing or whatever. And then, oh, by the way, this person's going to be at our event. So if you want to learn more from them, make sure you're signed up to get our information about the upcoming event. I think it doesn't always necessarily have to be your content that you originally made. You can kind of work with other people that are involved in your event too to see what makes the most sense. And Megan kind of alluded to this too, but I think keeping your forums as simple as possible is good too, because people are a lot more protective of their of their personal data these days. So make do with as little as you possibly can. Like oftentimes we'll just ask for a first name and email address. And then from there you can try to get them to give you more information. So you can kind of build out their user profile over time. But to start with, really all you need is their email address, and you can start marketing to them and make sure that you're getting them the information that they want. So start easy. And like we said, you can tie it in with your Facebook ad strategy too, or just a simple boosted post. And if you don't have a marketing email software, an ESP, some of the ones that you could look into, a lot of them are pretty affordable, especially if you're just starting your list. Oftentimes the pricing is based on how many people are on your email list. So if you're just starting, it's pretty cheap. So there's always MailChimp. That's a really popular one. Or Klaviyo is a really good one. Constant Contact. That's a bit of an older one, but it still works. The one we use is HubSpot, which is like a whole thing, but you could just use it for email too, and it works out really well. So the other thing with email, I think, is making sure your emails they stand out. Make sure they stand out in the inbox. The design of them is attractive, that you're really capturing people's attention. One thing that Megan and I do is we follow really good content creators in really all these spaces, but in email marketing especially. This guy, Jay Schwedelson, he does just great content about email. He'll talk about like which emojis work best in subject lines, which words are getting the highest open rates, and he'll talk about how they kind of change over time. They do it. He manages subjectline.com, so they have a bunch of really good like first party data. They'll talk about how it changes over time and based on the time of year and the quarter and things like that. So stay in tune with those trends. And it goes a really long way. It's kind of crazy how much like a simple subject line change can change the effectiveness of your email.
Going off of subject lines as well, I think another thing to really be cognizant of when you're creating event marketing emails is to make sure there's a call to action of some sort. Mm-hmm. So when people open up your email, what action do you want them to take? Do you want them to learn more? Do you want them to download something? Do you want them to buy their ticket? It's really getting that verb word within the action, the CTA. It could be a button, it could be a link, it could be an image that people click on. I've even seen some like YouTube video kind of thumbnails that look like it plays a video, so that when people click on it, it jumps into a video that they can watch. Mm-hmm. So you can get kind of creative with getting people to take action within the specific email that you're sending. Yeah,
definitely. And we seem to see the most success when each email has like one specific purpose. So make sure you're not like putting a bunch of different actions into one email, because people get a little bit confused. Like, oh, am I supposed to be signing up? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? So try to make the entire email based on like one focus. So like every button going to the same landing page, make sure the messaging in the email matches the messaging on that landing page. Just so it's a really cohesive experience for the end user, and you're not giving them too many options, because at that point people sometimes will just exit out of the email because they're like, I don't really know what the point of this is. You really don't have much time to capture their attention with any marketing, but that includes email. So make sure that the message is really tight and straightforward. You go ahead.
I was going to say, Brooke and I have a very cool website that we
Yes,
use.
that's
So
what
if
I was
all of this is feeling very overwhelming, like I want to create emails, I just don't know how to lay it out. I don't know what wording I should use. I don't know, what buttons should look like. We have this very cool website that we use. It's called reallygoodemails.com, and it's free to go and browse around. But this email or this website, it compiles a whole bunch of really cool email designs that other companies and organizations have done. So if you put in a keyword, so event marketing or blog or newsletter, it will pop up different types of emails that other people have created, and that can give you some inspiration of how you can kind of recreate that to keep people engaged.
Yeah, and if you create an account, there's a lot of emails where you can actually download the original HTML file, and then you could upload that to your own ESP and make changes to make sure it matches your branding, and obviously change a lot of stuff about it, but at least it gives you a starting point for what you want your email to look like. So that's a super nice benefit too. We love reallygoodemails.com. They have a great newsletter too. Highly recommend. They're a very fun company, and the website is very straightforward. What you see is what you get. Another thing too that I know Jay Schwedelson actually talks about this, especially when it comes to event marketing, promoting your event. When you're talking about what your event is about, trying to get people to sign up, make sure that you're focused on the content of your event. Like, that's the reason why people are attending, is they want to learn something or they want to do continuing education. So focus on what that piece of information is going to be, what they're actually going to get out of your event, not so much on who the speaker is, unless it's like a huge name. Like, obviously, if you're going to Inbound and like Ryan Reynolds was the keynote last year, like that obviously is like a different story. But assuming that like most of the speakers at your event maybe don't have the same name recognition as someone like Ryan Reynolds, make sure you're focused on the content of what that speaker is going to give to your audience, not so much on just the name, because that doesn't always sell it the way that you think it might. So just something to kind of keep in mind. It's content first, which actually is a great segue into what we next want to talk about, which is content marketing.
It's my specialty. It's what I love.
Bread and butter.
Again, I could talk about this all day, so we'll have to rein it in a little bit here, Brooke. But one thing that I wanted to start off with content marketing is this is something that is worth starting ahead of time. As Brooke mentioned, if you are going to have a gated content piece, it's good to have that towards the beginning of your event planning journey, because then you can start utilizing that throughout the event planning process and make sure you have that ready to go so that you can start building that list, getting people excited and interested in your event. Also because SEO takes a lot of time to, get traction within Google. So making sure you're starting that ahead of time. We talked a little bit about creating a juicy gated piece, and we can, tie that in with Facebook ads. Facebook ads are very user-friendly and intuitive. So if doing ads kind of freaks you out a little bit, Facebook is a great place to start. We recommend. Another thing I wanted to touch on is there's a lot of different facets of content marketing. So there's, writing blogs, there's doing website copy, there's, creating your program, a lot of different things go into content marketing. But one thing I want to stress, especially if you don't have the biggest budget ever, is to make sure that you are repurposing all of your hard work into different platforms and onto different platforms, into different mediums. So for example, if you put a lot of hard work into this article about your event, is there a way that you can take a list that you had within the blog and turn it into a graphic, or can you take a video and turn it into small video clips and put that on social media? So I think with content, the biggest thing that I would probably drive home is to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So your time is valuable, and content marketing does take, a little bit of time, but when you do it right, it can really help draw attention to your event and get people excited about attending.
For sure.
Another cool thing that you can do is to see what other events are doing. So if you just don't really know where to start, it's a great, thing to kind of like see what other people are doing, go on their social platforms, go on their websites, go on their YouTube channel, their TikTok, see what they're doing. And not to say that you should copy everything, but I think we're all in this together and we can get inspiration from one another and work with that.
For sure. Yeah. And like you said, content marketing, people I think used to think of it as just like posting blogs. And that's still, an aspect of it, but it goes so much beyond that. And even podcasting, podcasting is still content marketing. And there's just a lot of different avenues that you can take. And don't rely so much on the SEO aspect of it too, because I think that is the hardest part to build up, especially again, if it's like your first year of your event. It might be, you might put your website out and your domain authority is like 2. And if that might not make sense if you don't know about SEO, but basically if you're putting a website up for the first time, Google doesn't trust it yet, you might not be able to rely on your website to rank really highly for different keywords related to what your event is about. So try to be a little bit more creative too when it comes to your content marketing strategy. Like Megan said, if you're going to write a blog post to try to boost your domain authority and get people to come to your website organically, turn that blog post into a social media post, turn the content into a podcast, turn everything that you do, make sure that you're repurposing it so that you're not reinventing the wheel over and over again.
I think that's a good spot to also kind of tie in with social media groups. So if you're in charge of a Facebook group or you're in charge of a LinkedIn group, you can also use all this awesome content that you've been putting all your hard work into the Facebook group or the LinkedIn group and get people interacting with that, sharing it. It's just like a great organic way to get people excited about your event and sharing it. And, all you have to do is, click comment or click share. And it's easy for attendees to get the word out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once they're excited about it, they'll kind of spread the word themselves, which is really cool. And that kind of, we have so many like natural segues. So that kind of ties us into the next topic, which is relying on your partnerships and relationships that you've built because of your event. So there's a couple examples that we can think of, but the first one, this goes back to Guru Media Hub. So Guru, again, this is Jay Schwedelson is involved with this again, but they do virtual events and they're very successful at it. And they do a lot of unique things to get people to start talking about their event on social media, online. So one thing that they're doing for an upcoming event called Eventastic, which is a free virtual event for event planners. So if you're into event planning, I would recommend checking it out. But they actually came up with like 5 different meme templates, and you can go on their website, take a picture of yourself with your webcam, and it'll like insert you into these event planning related memes, and they're pretty funny. And that encourages people then to go and then share that meme on LinkedIn and then be like, oh, I made this meme on Eventastic, like super excited for the event. So by providing like these fun ways for people to engage with your event and then go share it on social media before your event, it's just getting those attendees to start kind of marketing it on your behalf without you even having to be involved in it. And I think in order to do that, you just need to make it fun and relatable to your end audience, because people are looking for stuff to share, especially on LinkedIn. I can't remember the stat, but I feel like we recently heard that like 90% of LinkedIn users don't post anything at all, but a lot of people want to post on LinkedIn. So a lot of times people are just looking for something to actually post. So if you are doing like a professional event for professionals who would be on LinkedIn, this could be a great tactic to get them to start talking about it, because chances are they want to be active. They want to start networking with other people. So just give them an easy way to do it. People love goofy memes. AI tools are like super accessible nowadays. So there's a lot of different things that you can kind of do with that.
I think another thing to kind of add to that is making sure that you're leaning into, the people that are already huge event enthusiasts for you. So that could be, people who have already attended your event. Maybe it's your sponsors, your exhibitors, or even just event influencers that are really excited about the industry and want to talk about your event. So really leaning into the people who are excited and want to talk about your event and working with them to get the word out. Usually if you ask nicely, most people are pretty willing to do a little post for you and chat about it. Maybe they can or do a little blurb about your event in their newsletter, or, make a social post. You could do a fun video with them. I know I've used this tool called StreamYard. It's really cool. You can pop onto there with another person. It's kind of like a digital video recording studio, and that's super easy to use. I think you can start using it for free if you want to check it out, but that's a really easy way to, make social media content with someone, talk about your event and ask why someone's so excited to attend, or just in general, get the excitement up about your event and get people interested in buying a ticket.
Yeah, definitely. And I think going along with that too, just make sure that you are a partner that your partners want to work with and want to continue working with, especially when you're in the first couple years where maybe your event doesn't have a ton of brand recognition. You're really going to rely on that word of mouth. So if you're working with a sponsor, make sure it's worth their while. Make sure that they're getting bang for their buck out of what you're offering. I know that we've worked with some partners where we maybe don't feel like we're getting as much out of it. Those are usually the ones that have a little bit more like brand recognition. So it's kind of like they rely on that, like, oh, we're this company, everyone knows us, so we don't maybe need to provide as much value. But which is not a great attitude to take.
Yeah.
But especially if you don't have that brand recognition, like make sure that when your sponsors sign up, when they're paying for their sponsorship package, that they're really getting a bang for their buck out of whatever you're providing. So make sure that you're not just putting their logo on a sign outside of the like keynote speaker area. Make sure that you're like, and even working with them, creating unique packages of being like, what is going to be the most benefit to you? Are you looking for new subscribers? Are you looking for traffic to a new campaign that you're running? Are you looking for social media followers? Figure out how you can be of most value to your sponsors and really work with them to figure out how to do that and how to create that relationship, because that's going to get them to come back the next year and want to keep working with you. And you can, get a good quote from them about how great it was to work with you, put it on your prospectus for next year to get more sponsors and get some really good statistics and feedback that way too. I think that really goes a long way, honestly. Just be someone that people want to work with. I cannot emphasize that enough, because we've definitely had both ends of the spectrum from different partners on that.
I think attendees and sponsors just want to feel heard. They want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. So if you can go that extra step, that extra mile to make them feel that way, they're so much more likely to return back to your event the following year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know we've even had experiences too where and provide people with easy ways to share information about your event too, because I know for us, it's like if we're participating in an event, we have a booth there or something like that, it's always super convenient when the people who run that event give us like a pack of easily shareable images for social media, where it's like, oh, here is a template for like a correctly sized Instagram post. You just drop in like your booth number or something, or maybe put in the headshots of the people who are attending. It's so nice to have that, and maybe have like copy too. Like here, you can copy and paste this and just replace some words. And people can kind of go rogue with it or whatever, but at least giving them something to start with makes it a lot more likely for them to actually share that information about your event, because usually it's the marketing team that ends up having to like do that. And a lot of times marketing teams are pretty busy. So whatever makes our jobs easier, is good. So think about that too. Just make it easy to talk about your event and make it easy to work with you. Give people value. Just provide value. Really, that's like the best thing you can possibly do, I think, is to provide value.
And at the end of your event, get feedback from all the initiatives that you did and see what worked, see what didn't, and build upon those things for next year and make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be that complicated to get that feedback. Like if you hear a good quote from someone, be like, hey, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you saw value in our event. Would you mind like if I put that in writing and then if you could sign off on us using that quote in like our marketing for next year. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It can just be a super simple back and forth thing, and it's mutually beneficial then. Maybe you could even be like, oh, and if you do that, we'll give you 20% off of your sponsorship package for next year. You can make it mutually beneficial to receive that feedback too. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for sure.
Awesome. We've covered a lot of really fun, great, affordable event promotion tips. So
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to pick your brain on, Brooke, is how to create urgency around getting people to sign up for an event. I know with everything changing, I know attendee sign-up behavior is a lot different nowadays, with budgets changing, with like travel being a little iffy. Attendees are waiting a lot closer to event dates to actually sign up for events. And I know that can be difficult to work with. So I was wondering if we could cover some ways to, get people wanting to sign up quickly and getting them interested in, checking that off the to-do list and making sure that they're signed up for the event.
Yeah, I think that's something we hear so much from customers in the event planning industry lately is that I think one of our sales team members just yesterday was telling us they were meeting with a client and they had an event where I think like 5,000 people attended and like 1,000 people signed up within the week leading up to that event.
That's crazy.
And which is just stressful because like when you don't know how many people are going to attend, how do you plan? So it's really nice to encourage people to sign up early so you kind of have an idea of the numbers ahead of time. That helps with like communicating with sponsors too, because you can have a more solid idea of like, this is how many people are attending. This is what their titles are. Getting people to sign up ahead of time is huge. I think, there's the standard like early bird discounts. A lot of people do that. I feel like people are so used to seeing like that verbiage that you could maybe be a little bit more creative with it and not call it like an early bird discount. I'm not really sure like how you can make that more fun, but it does seem to get a little bit tired. But I think talking about like having a limited number of spots, I think creating that sense of urgency, even just to get someone to sign up for your newsletter, like there's limited spots left. Make sure that you sign up so you know when all the deadlines are, and then you can, encourage them to sign up ahead of time. Then maybe offer your early bird discount. I don't feel like the early bird discount gets someone to like sign up and pay immediately. It's more like create that urgency by talking about how spots are limited and then get them just to sign up for information and then start talking about like those discounts and make sure that you're promoting the right way. People, I think, really react to that fear of missing out and they want something that they can act on immediately. And it's not always going to be that they have the money set aside to pay for your event right when they see that messaging. So think of different ways to get someone to urgently react to something that doesn't involve them like paying or doing, giving you all their contact information, things like that.
I think one thing that works on me personally, I don't know if it works for you, is this is something that Inbound does and the content marketing world does. So what they'll do is they'll post the different ticket tiers and you get to know all the pricing up front. So you can physically see, okay, once this date comes, this ticket price is no longer available. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to pay more and I can see when that date is up. So I'm going to make sure that I get approval from my boss to sign up for that event before this specific date so that I don't miss out on the specific pricing.
For sure.
So I know that worked on me. I did sign up for a conference that said, if you can get into this, first tier, you don't have to pay more.
Yeah. Or like, I know this is something that guru events do too, is like if you're one of the first 1,000 people to sign up, we'll send you a free sweatshirt, which again, you might not always have the budget for that, but even if it's something smaller and more affordable than a sweatshirt or a hoodie, that's like a super fun way to do it too, is like if you are one of the first to sign up, you get a free thing. And maybe, you have more than 1,000, you're trying to get as many people to sign up as you can. You can maybe fudge the numbers a little bit there, but yeah, like give a incentive, like a fun incentive for people to want to sign up for your event. That doesn't just involve like, you better sign up now or you're going to be paying double. Like that's not really a fun message to send to people. So I think like the more you can make it exciting and still have like this FOMO urgency vibe behind it, but like give someone a reason to want to sign up for your event early.
All right. I have another question for you. So I know there's a lot of talk about tracking the effectiveness of all the different event promotion tactics that you use. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So how can planners track the effectiveness of budget methods? And I know you kind of talked a little bit about, how much time are you putting into these things?
I think that's a big one, because if you're not, maybe your budget has been cut quite a bit. I feel like the more your budget is cut, the more time you're going to have to put into all these other methods. And so make sure that you're tracking the amount of time you're spending on a lot of these marketing efforts so that you can report out to, whoever decides your budget and be like, hey, maybe we still got the same amount of attendees this year as we did last year when we had a larger budget, but I spent 3 times as much time on all these assets. And that meant that I had less time to dedicate to this other event, or less time to, dedicate to my team and things like that. I think is really important to make sure that you're tracking how much time you're spending on these things. And additionally, like it can be really hard to figure out what marketing methods are actually working. I mean, we run into this all the time because the like standard, like if you use Google Analytics, it's all based on like last click attribution. And, oh, okay, this person signed up and they came from an email and that's the last thing they clicked on. So we're going to assign this person to email. That's what changed their mind. But it might be that they saw like a Facebook ad and then read a blog post and then listened to a podcast, and they were already convinced to sign up, but the email is just the most recent thing they saw. It doesn't necessarily mean that the email is what determined that. So something that we kind of try to do too is like just surveying people. It's like very old school, but it honestly is still like an effective and very affordable method to figure out what's actually working. Is maybe right after someone signs up for your event, you have an optional survey that just says, hey, how did you hear about us? Or maybe even after the event, say like, how did you first hear about us? You can even kind of figure out if someone says, oh, I heard about you on Instagram, then maybe ask them, oh, like what Instagram influencer did you hear about us from? So you can maybe reach out to that person and work with them for next year. Really just like asking people how they heard about you, I think is underrated these days. We all want like all these different tools to tell us what's working. And then sometimes the tools don't really help that much, or the tools are really expensive if you want them to help. And just ask people, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It goes back to, your time is very valuable. Your energy is valuable. So making sure that you're drilling into the things that did work, doing more of that, and maybe cutting out the things that didn't work so well or took up too much of your time, especially if you didn't get a really great ROI on that specific strategy that you implemented.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we have another really fun, quick question to cover. So I wanted to ask you, Brooke, have you seen any like unconventional event promotion tactics that like a real event has done that you thought was really cool?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back. I already kind of touched on this, but I think Guru does a great job of this. Not only do they like send out hoodies, but they have like hats and stickers and T-shirts and like just so much merch that they're kind of turning like their super fans into these walking billboards for their events. Like I seriously have a collection of like just like a stupid amount of Guru apparel from attending a bunch of their events, and I wear it, and I have a Guru sticker on my laptop, and their events are really fun. So I think like matching like the vibe and energy of your event with like the merchandise that you're sending out to people too. Like they have funny like memes and jokes on their apparel, and it's kind of fun to wear because people will be like, oh yeah, I relate to that. Like one of the T-shirts says, like I like marketing and maybe 3 people or something, which like that's just like a funny a quote that a lot of marketers will relate to, and it has their branding on it. So I think making sure that everything kind of has a vibe. Like if your event is fun, have fun merchandise, have a fun marketing persona, have a fun voice, and people will really be attracted to that, and they'll do the marketing for you. And that's something that you never really have to pay for, like that, other than obviously the cost of the merchandise. But you can usually get a pretty good deal on that. Doesn't have to be like the highest quality T-shirt in the world.
People just like free things.
They
so
do.
If you can
Yeah.
give them a free thing, whether it's a physical item or a digital item, people just like to feel that they're valued, and
For sure.
They can get something that they can wear or use in their job.
Yeah, dedefinitely.
Feel
What about
really
you?
excited.
Do you have any fun examples?
One kind of cool thing that I've seen done in the past is to do like limited edition or custom gift boxes for attendees. So this was, I think, a few years ago. PC Name Tag worked with Ronald McDonald House, Atlanta.
Yeah.
And they were trying to think of ways to increase ticket sales and also to help with donor retention. So they worked with us to put together a really cool gift box full of fun items that if you donate $500 to the Ronald McDonald House or more, you get this cool gift box, which I thought was cool. And everything within the gift box was provided by sponsors. So they didn't have to necessarily pay for any of that. So if you're someone who's, on a budget, you can, get your different sponsors to contribute different items to the gift box and have it completely paid for. So that's one thing that I've seen that has worked really well.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we're kind of coming to the end of the episode, but my next question is, what is one thing that event professionals can focus on now to get the most bang for their buck, if you had to pick one thing?
Yeah, I think like rounding out, I think that's a good way to kind of tie everything back together. I think like the one thing to get the most bang for your buck is building that email list. We talked about it kind of at the beginning, but there's so much that can come from that. Like once you have an email list, you can upload your email list to your Facebook ads and you can retarget those people on Facebook. You can build a lookalike audience. If Facebook can match enough people. I think you have to have like a list of 1,000 people that match back to Facebook accounts, but then you can build a list of 1 million people who match that same profile of who is already in your list, and you can market to those people. You can really like fine tune who your target audience is by amassing this group of people who are really excited about your event, this email list that will tell you like what job titles people are in, what industries they're in. You can do a lot. Even with AI tools, you could upload your subscriber list to ChatGPT and be like, hey, what is the most common industry mentioned in this list? What's the most common job title? So then you can be like, okay, I have 100 people signed up who all are event specialists or event coordinators or something. Maybe I should do a ad just targeting that job title. There's a lot of information that you can get from it, and just having that group of people who is interested in your content, I think is so valuable. So I would say start there and start way well ahead of time and start building that list for sure.
I think for me, I would say just be a really great communicator and focus on relationship building. You know, be the event that people want to go to, be the event that, sponsors want to work with, get people excited about it, and make yourself approachable, make yourself, seem human. You're not just a brand, you are people behind the brand. So I would say the biggest thing for me is just focusing on that great communication and get people excited.
Yeah, definitely. Build relationships. I love that. That's also a great point. I think that's it, right?
I think so.
I think
we covered a lot, but we have a little exciting announcement. We do have a official podcast email.
So we're moving up.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us, let us know how you enjoyed the episode. If you have any ideas for future episodes, we'd love for you to reach out to us. It's eventconnection@pcnametag.com. We can put that on the screen for you guys.
Just Event Connect, not just Event Connection of it.
Eventconnection@pcnametag.com.
Yeah.
We also have some cool freebies if any of you are interested in getting some downloadables that kind of have to do with this episode that we put together today. We have the 25 creative ways to promote your event for free. I can send you that. We also have the early bird promotions cheat sheet. So if you want one or either of those, shoot us an email and we will send that out to you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and make sure you subscribe and like if you're on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, make sure that you subscribe so you get notified when we post more episodes. I know we're planning on talking a lot about budget-friendly ways to manage events and things like that, because I know it's a big topic. So make sure that you're tuned in, and we're excited to bring you more content.
Until next time.